Hi, Greg from Curry Country Living. This week we're going to be looking at some live edge tables. Jamie Sims, a local resident about 6 miles down the road from me, has been working with these for a little while now, self-taught, and we're going to go over and have a look. And this came because the bin behind me, I'm looking for some sort of tabletop or bar top to go in my bin behind me, and I wanted to pick up some ideas. So have a look. Lots of variety. Find all Jamie's information in the links, and if you have any questions, he's the guy to ask. But you do a really good job of whatever you get involved in. And I came over here tonight because we were talking in front of my Binzevo and my bar bin, and I was trying to get ideas off you about how to put a bar ledge on a round thing. And you got really excited talking about live edge tables, and that's what we're looking at here right now.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got into live edge tables.
A company out of Quebec phoned me, and they're wanting me to sell their product and stuff for them. So I figured, well, if I'm selling their product, I guess I best be learning how to use it.
So you've been learning this just on your own, like you?
On my own, and off of YouTube and Pinterest and stuff, and just watching different guys that are doing it, and they give me comments and I give them comments, and we actually get along pretty good. There's 3 or 4 of us that keep in touch pretty close.
Well, I'm thinking you're not scared to try shit, because like I'm looking at some of this stuff. Can you tell me? I'm just gonna flip this camera around. Let's maybe start over here. Like what do we got here?
That's the table I just finished pouring about 3 days ago, and I just took it out of the forms and stuff. So now I gotta give it a sanding and a clear coat and everything, and just polish it up, and it'll be ready to go to whoever wants to buy it.
Some other stuff here. You've got. It looks like there's some different stages. Like you're.
Yeah, this one here now. It's pretty well polished. I'll put one more polish on it. What I do is I start off with about a 320 sandpaper, and I work my way right up to about a 1500 grit sandpaper. And I could go up to 3000, and I wouldn't probably have to put a clear coat or anything on it. You get into the higher the sandpaper, the more shine it'll bring. And then
how do you determine your colors? Like how do you, like even the wood and one, like what kind of wood is in there?
That there is a maple, and if you look at it, the reason I went with the red in here and everything is the actual blood of the maple tree. It's all in the wood itself. So this red stuff in here is actually not epoxy. That is the color of the tree. I've got a scrap piece of maple here. It hasn't had anything done to it. And you can see the red and everything in that there for grain and everything. And that is all natural. That's the way it came out of the tree. That's local Manitoba wood? That was picked up about 150 yards behind my house here in Manitoba.
Yeah. Right on.
So, and then these here are just, they're going to be telephone stands for Forest Hill Cabin and RV Park. I've got to make 5 of them for them, and there's just scrap pieces of wood and stuff that I've collected and kept from cutting out of the trees and stuff.
So you've done all the woodwork here yourself?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So and then I know she had the metal stands underneath the underneath these, and do you make that yourself, or where do you get that?
I get that made for me at Windy Bay Hutterite Colony. They got a CNC plasma cutter and everything, and they're all notched and grooved and everything, so everything fits together 100%. They're perfectly level, and they do an awesome job of making them for me.
No, looks great. So over here on this side,
we've got a couple different stages there. We got this one here that it's got oil on it to bring the wood grain out and everything. So now what I'll do is I just keep putting clear coat on it, tabletop epoxy on it, until it gets smooth, and then it'll be ready to go too.
How long does it take you to do one of these tables, like something this size that we're looking at right now?
By the time I sand the wood, or plane the wood and everything, and sand it down and everything and get it ready, it's probably a day and a half to 2 days prepping, and then once I pour it, it's 48 to 72 hours for the epoxy to get fairly stiff enough to start sanding.
Yeah.
If you start sanding it too soon, it just fills your sandpaper up. The longer you can leave it, the longer your sandpaper will last when you're sanding.
So again, you're doing a lot of trial and error on this, watching YouTube videos.
Live and learn. Live and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's made a few mistakes. There's a few of them that I don't have out here anywhere for anybody to see because I was pretty embarrassed and didn't want to see them.
You're like the rest of us. You're hiding your mistakes, are you?
Yeah. Yeah. And this one here, I made all the live edge and everything on this one myself. I can pull it out here, get it a little closer. It weighs probably about 100 pounds.
Oh shit! So it's the same on both sides.
It's the same on both sides. So what it is this is the underside. So it's not finished near as good. But when I'm done doing the top and everything, I'll put another, like where the exposed wood is, I'll put another coat of clear epoxy on it just to seal the wood up so it doesn't discolor or
So
warp or
normally
twist.
speaking, there's a finished side or a good side, and then
Yeah,
the underside.
it's if you go back to the first one here that we were looking at, these ones are kind of hard to see, but if you look at this here, it's got a tapered edge on it, and that's due to the way the form is made. The forms are made out of
Gotcha.
hard plastic, and it's tapered so that when you go to knock them off the forms, you just hit it with a rubber hammer, flip it upside down, give it about 3 hits, and it falls out.
Yeah. This far table you got over here, it looks like it's in the form and ready to be poured.
It's been a complete nightmare.
Oh.
It's a 46-inch dining table is what it's going to be. And it's going to have the blue in it, just like the table we were looking at prior to it. And it's for a lady in Crystal City.
Wow. And has it been when you say nightmare, can you elaborate? Like, it's just the fact that it's round.
To get that wood completely round, I've taken 2 pieces of melamine and tried to get it 100%. So I put a hole in the middle of it, took a string, ran it in a circle, and that wasn't really working for me. So after the first try, I tried everything to do, boards, everything like that, and I said, nope, I've had enough, and I went over to the Hutterite colony. They have a CNC wood carver, and it's what they use for making their cabinets. So you just program the size in, put the piece of wood down, and within probably 5 minutes it was done for me.
Wow.
And the nightmare went away. So now just got the wood all fitted and everything. I just got to router the back edges so that it fits down, because we siliconed the inside of it. We tuck tape everything here. Epoxy does not stick to the red tape. It sticks to everything, but it won't stick to epoxy. And then siliconed around the inside edge so that the epoxy doesn't leak out. So now I'll have to take the router and just put a rounded edge on these so that they fit down tight into the form. And then I'll go ahead and clamp them down and pour the epoxy.
Okay.
So hopefully within the next week or so that one's finished and get a little more room down here. That's something that me and my wife just laid out last night. We don't know if we're going to go ahead and pour it or if we're going to change it up a little bit. So all we'll do is we'll take these and we'll put a little gob of hot glue underneath it and then stick it into the form. That way when I pour the epoxy, they won't float and move around all over the place. That's something I've learned on my own, is hot glue gun, it'll still come off the forms. If you use silicone, you have a hard time getting it off the form. So I just use hot glue.
And this table here?
That table there, I'm not sure what I'm doing there. It's just we cut the wood and stuff with the chainsaw, and I just like the colors of it, so I'm probably going to figure out a way to make some kind of a mess in the middle of it and pour some epoxy on it, I guess.
Oh, and there's some unique looking designs and shit there, really.
Yeah, what I'll have to do is in here, you'll see all this is punky and rotten. All that has to come off in order for me to pour the epoxy.
Okay.
If I pour the epoxy now, what will happen is the epoxy will bond to that, and down the road, a chip of this will come out, or a chunk of that will come out, and the epoxy will let go, so it'll start falling apart and cracking.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of sanding, chipping, chiseling, and getting rid of all the bark. Like if you notice here, like the bark's separating from the wood. So when I go to use this, I'll take a little screwdriver, stick it in there, and pop that bark right off so that it looks like this when it's done. And then I'll hit it with a wire brush just to get the fur off of it. And then the epoxy will bond to it. if it's something you're not sure the epoxy is going to stick to, you just take a drill, a 1/4-inch drill bit, and drill a couple holes in it, and that way the epoxy runs into it and the epoxy will bond to it and make it all as one unit.
Wow.
And this is a cutting board mold, and that one there, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with it. I just figured I'd set it up here so people could see it, and
So it almost like you learn a little bit every time you do this.
I'm learning, and I'll probably keep learning. As once you're done learning something, well, there's no point in doing it anymore. It's been doing carpentry for 31 years, and I had some health issues, so I decided to get into this and doing this, and I'm really enjoying it. But
well, and I know today we had a minus 35 degrees Celsius day, so something like this working inside is a lot nicer than trying to do something outside.
exactly, I don't mind the cold and everything, but when it's 30 below, you don't really want to be out there.
No.
But
So tell me, we're going to do a pour tonight.
I'm going to do a pour, yeah. This table here, I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to go with a grayish black pearl in it, or a red like that one what we looked at with the round wood in it. I'm donating it to Louise Fire. We're going to have first, second, and third prizes, and we're hoping to raffle some tickets off and raise some money for the local volunteer fire departments. This one here is a 2 foot by 48, and that's going to be first prize. This size here, what we were looking at here, I'll probably change the wood up so that it matches to the oak in the other one. And it'll just be more or less 2 pieces of wood in there and 1 river down through it. And that'll be second prize. That's a 18 by 36 table. And the third prize, I'm thinking either a round table, or I'm going to go with a cutting board for them. So there'll be first, second, and third prizes, and hopefully we can sell some tickets and raise some money for the fire department.
So what am I looking at, Jamie? This is what I might call the heart of the whole project, or the what brings the live table to life.
That's
the
what.
living table.
Yeah, that's what brings. That's all the epoxy you're looking at there and stuff. We got it's 2-part epoxy, so there's 1 part B and 2 parts A. So the A is your resin, and your B is your hardener. I call it liquid gold. It's worth a lot of money. But it's fun to work with. This company here is it's new. It's new to me. Like, it's not brand new to me. I've done a few pours with it and stuff, and I'm really enjoying working with it. Very little bubbles and stuff like that. It's you can mix it with a drill and everything. Preferably use a wooden stir stick, but if you get too many bubbles and stuff in it, there's heat guns and your famous little blue plumbing torch will suck the flame or the bubbles right out of it. It's learned that too by watching YouTube and stuff. First one I didn't pay much attention to that, and I have bubbles everywhere. You've looked around and stuff, you haven't seen it because I've pretty well got it hidden where I don't even want to see it.
And how do you get the colors? Is this what I'm looking at here?
This here is this is just sample packages, what they've sent me, and just a little bit of it. It don't take much, like a 1/4 teaspoon of stuff will do a 12 by 24 table easily. And there's 36 different colors here. There is more other colors. We've got glow in the dark. This company's got glow in the dark colors, and they got pearl colors, they got swirl colors. So if you're wanting to do a white and a blue or whatever, like, there's different types of epoxy to use too. Like, there's this over here is the tabletop, and it's a art epoxy tabletop. It's good for making your tops, bar tops, everything like that. It's a lot harder than just the regular epoxy. But then they also have swirl epoxy. So there's 4 or 5 different types of epoxy. This here is for up to 2-inch pours. That there, they recommend not doing more than a 1/4 inch. I don't like to even do a 1/4 inch. I'll do about a 1/16 of an inch and do 2 or 3 layers of it, just for the fact that the more you pour, the softer it is. Give it time to dry in between, and it hardens right up like glass.
Right on. And we're going to do a pour.
We're going to do a pour.
So,
I'm trying to decide whether I want to do it, get as close to fire engine red in that table for the department, or if I want to go with a gray and put a little bit of black swirl in it. So what I'll do is I'll mix up the epoxy and everything, and I'm thinking I'm going to go with the gray. So I'll mix up enough epoxy to pour the table. Like I said, this stuff here we can pour it up to 2 inches thick. The table is 1.5 inches thick, so I'll mix up enough to do the 1.5 inches, and then when I get the gray in there, I'll mix up probably about 2 cups, maybe 3 cups of just black, and I'll wait for probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever. This is a little shovel you get for putting your
that literally is a little shovel.
It is, yeah. You put your pigment and everything. That's what they call this stuff, is all pigment. You put it in the epoxy once you get it mixed together to your 50-to-1, and then we'll put it in the bucket there and we'll stir it up. And when we get done that, we'll pour the gray in there, and the black I'll do with the measuring cup, and I'll take the black after the gray's in there, and I'll do a couple strips just down through the center of it and everything. Leave it for a few minutes, and then I'll take the opposite end of the little shovel and I'll just sit there and I'll just swirl it around, and that'll bring the black and the gray together, and you'll get a marbly look to it. That's what I'm hoping for. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out how much epoxy I need for this table. So we got this fancy little thing they supply me with here. It's a calculator for epoxy, but you take your tape, measure out what you have from one side of the board to the other side of the board. So here I'm looking at about 4 1/4, but over here I'm 2 3/4, almost all the way down there. I'm 3 1/2 there. Come over to here, I'm 3 1/4. So if I average that out with 2 pieces here, so I'm going to go for my length, which I know my table is 48 inches long, so everything's in inches, so you just punch in 48 and then come down to the next one, which I'm going to go, I figure approximately, yeah, I'm going to go 6.5, so 6.5 inches. And then my depth and everything here, you can go right down to 1/8 of an inch, and you can go right up to 2 inch, because the epoxy that we're going to be using, they say you can do 2 inches. So 1.5 is I believe what my height is. So yeah, my height is 1.5 inches. So I hit done, and then hit calculate, and it tells me that we're going to be using 1.79 gallons or 6.77 liters.
And actually, talk to me about the bucket, because you just told me what you were doing with that.
Well, the bucket is all my extra stuff. I just keep throwing pieces of wood and dropping the epoxy and everything in it. There's an old carpenter, well, it's not old, I guess he'll probably slap me for calling him old, but
I used to work with him, we'll call him old.
Yeah, a retired carpenter, and he's decided that he wanted to start doing lathe work, so I've been just filling up margarine containers and everything with epoxy, and what happens is I take them to him, or he comes and picks them up, and this is what we get when we're done.
Wow.
So he's retired, and he bought himself a wood lathe, and he's really enjoying his lathe, and I figured, well, why not give Don some epoxy and let him see what he can come up with, and he made that and brought it back to me for Christmas, and I thought that was pretty nice of him.
And that's a prime example of not throwing anything away that can be used.
Don't waste anything. If you can recycle something, recycle it. Like we're playing with epoxy, and it's not cheap. Now I got 2 measuring cups, and I got the mark A and B. That way I don't put the resin into the hardener and stuff like that, because it gets really ugly if you do that. So we're going to get ready here, and we're going to do some pouring.
Put in 4 liters of resin. Yeah. And you're about to put in the 2nd liter of hardener. And then that makes that makes the concoction, I guess you could say. So
now if you look down in there, you'll see a little bit of a swirl going on and everything. That's the two of them working against each other and trying to bond together. So now I got to stir it for about 5 minutes, and then I got to put the pigment in it, which I'm still deciding if it's going to be gray or if it's going to be red. But we got a stir stick, what they use for paint and drywall and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Do not use.
Oh, don't use it.
Don't use. It creates so many bubbles, and it's just a headache. So
Yeah. This works much better. But what have we got here? What do you call this?
This is a stir that's supplied by epoxy companies. It is, you can use it for paint or whatever, but this is what they recommend to use.
Okay.
It's about a $9 stir, and it works great.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get the thing here that nobody can live without anymore. And we're going to see it's 8:11 at night, and we're going to go for 5 minutes.
5 minutes is what you need to stir for.
5 minutes. I want it clear. I want it to be just like you're looking through a glass of water. So right now it's on the melty side, and when I get done and stuff, when that stirs down there in the bottom, you'll see it. Right now I'm just at the top of it, and if I go right down, you can't see it, so it'll be right in the bottom, and you'll actually see it. If you do it now, it's not mixed properly, so therefore it's going to create soft spots in the epoxy. So when you go to take it out of the form, there'll be sticky spots all over it if you don't get it mixed good enough. I guess we're going to go with a gray.
You've been thinking about it.
Oh, for the last 5 minutes of stirring it, so we got a color here called satin gray. So that's the color I'm going to go with. Now, all this is it's fine powder, just more or less like almost like a baking powder or something like that. So I'm saying right there is probably all I want to use. And we're going to drop that in there, and we're going to give it a little stir. And if I think it needs to be darker, well then I'll add some to it, but I don't think it's going to need to be darker, so it takes a few seconds here just to break her up, and you see the color starting to come now. When it starts to come, it comes quick. But that little bit of powder went right from crystal clear to gray. So now when we're doing this, if you look careful in there, you'll see all these little chunks right in here. We want to make sure we got all those out of there. Anything that looks like a bubble is the actual pigment. If we pour it like that, it won't harden. So we just got to stir until probably another minute or two, and it's looking very good. So now if you sit there and look at, you can see all the bubbles popping in there.
That's a good thing, right? That's
a good thing. But now there's, if you take that there, I'm just going to show you a little trick. Before I pour that, I've got this thing here. Plumbers hate to see me with this in my hand because I'm a jack of all trades and I do my own plumbing. But now if you just look down in that bucket, you'll see all the circles in there, and poof, that's sucking all the air right out of it. So I'm just heating that up, getting the air to come out of there. Now when I pour it, there's not going to be as many air bubbles. And then when I do pour it, the wood's going to bring bubbles to it too. So wherever there's a knot hole or a seam or anything like that, it's going to create bubbles because the wood's got it's porous, and it'll actually suck in. When it sucks in, it pushes air back out. Just stirring it a little bit with a paint stick here just to take a look at it and make sure it's kind of what I want. I think this is going to look really nice. So.
Any special technique or anything? You're just pouring?
Just approximately center, and just let it flow to each end. Okay, so now it's full there. Just let that run. We'll reach across and we'll pour a little on the other side. fill the knot holes. If anything's on top when we're done here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a putty knife and I'm going to run the putty knife over top of it.
You must have had to level this whole table and everything.
Leveled everything. It's I use shims underneath the table to make sure everything's 100% level. So now we're just going to set this here like that and let that bucket run right out. I'll come over here to the mess I got over here. Just got these little 7/16 or 1/16 grooved trowels just picked up at the local hardware store.
AKA Pat Sutherland.
And we're going to just take this now and we're going to make sure we can fill all these knot holes with epoxy. Just push it down like that, leave it. That one's pretty full. Over there, that one's good. As long as we make sure we got anywhere there's a knot. So right here, I know there's a burrow there, so I don't have enough epoxy on the top. There's my epoxy. Let it sit for a few minutes. Try to suck the air out of it. There's another one right here, so just splash it back up over. Everything's looking good. And we're down to the epoxy's pretty well level with the trowel and everything now in the grooves. So now we know that it's going to sneak around the outside edge. That's going to keep me down about that 1/4 inch to 1/16 of an inch, somewhere in there, which is perfect. So now when I go to do my finish coat, my clear coat, I fill that all up with clear coat now, and everything is perfectly smooth. It's very little sanding at the end of it. The way I do stuff, it's I'm learning as I'm going that less is always better. Most of the time you always say more is better, but it's not siliconing. Silicone, more silicone you can put on, the better it is, until the next person has to clean it up. And this, okay, so right here we got a crack. So in that crack, I want to make sure I bring this epoxy up and just let it run down in there. Okay, and now you'll notice too that when you look at it, there's bubbles everywhere. We're going to show you a trick with the torch and stuff again, with how to get those bubbles to disappear. We got a big hole right there, another hole there. Just let that sit for a minute or two. I'll get that bucket out of the way. Hopefully it's pretty well drained out. And then now when I go to use this bucket again, now I'll just let this sit for 2 days or whatever. Just bend the bucket at the top and it'll come out one big plastic sleeve. And so it'll be just like an insert. And that way Pat does not get me buying buckets every time I do this. Okay, so now, oh, we got a knot hole over here. The epoxy's running around this edge good there. It's running around over there good. So we're just going to splash a little up here and bring it over to that knot hole. And it looks like, if you look here in this knot hole, it's in the light. I don't know if you can pick it up or not, but there's quite a few little air bubbles in there. And now we're going to just clean this off a little bit, and we're going to get the torch and we're going to torch it. And I'm going to grab a level. And we're just going to throw that across the top of the form, and it's telling me that this side's got to come up a little bit. So we'll just come down here and we'll just go. And it's still got to go up a little bit. And I say I'm happy there. Down at this end, that's perfect. Corner to corner, perfect. other corner to corner. Perfect. So now we are good. We'll just let that sit, and I'm going to grab a torch right now, and we're going to show you right over here how to pop them bubbles. If you look right here, you can see all that gray. That's all air. That's 100% air in there. So
Just trying to get away from that light there. Okay, right?
okay, so now if you see there, I'm just going to go like that. Look at that. Over here in the corner, there's more air. Gone. So you just run that torch up and down. Over here, you got a pile of bubbles right here. Probably reflecting the light, but just one sweep of the torch and the air comes away. Now this side here, you can really see the bubbles in it. Right, where was it? Okay, so if we just go right here and just follow that down, you can see all that wave. That wave's taking the bubbles right out. So that's all bubble free now. Down here, there's bubbles. Pop. And the bubbles are gone. So now we sit and wait for about 5 minutes, and we'll see if we can swirl it. And so thinking to swirl it, all I do is get one of these barbecue skewers, and it's swirled an awful lot of tables already, but it's when I go to swirl it, if you look here, I'll probably do it right now, but it'll just go like that, and it'll just put a swirl in it, just to give it a little more character and get rid of the, down here we got all that silver looking stuff. So if I swirl that, it's going to take the silver out and bring it more into a gray. It's just something I've picked up and watching YouTube and watching all these other professional epoxy pourers, dreaming one day I might become one. But that's just more or less to blend the color in together. And when you're stirring it like that too, you're working the epoxy back and forth, and you're creating a little wave in it. And that's bringing out any bubble that is in it. If say for example there's a airlock in the wood or whatever going like that, it'll actually make it move to let the air out of the wood too. And then back over here, get rid of all that silver. And that's about every half-hour check now for next 3 hours, just to make sure that there's no air popping through it, because if you don't do that and you come down tomorrow morning and there's a great big air bubble in there, there's not much you can do besides sand it out and start again. And there. So now I hit that with that. We're going to just give it a quick wafting with the torch this time. And then on all the knots too. There.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video for Curry Country Living. And this is actually, Jamie, this is kind of the first time I've really gone outside my my yard and looked into somebody else's projects. And I'd like to do this a lot more because I learned a lot tonight. We were discussing a little bit. You've still got some work to do on this table. You've got to put a clear coat on it.
Yeah, I'll have to do probably approximately 2 more pours. So I'll do about an 1/8 of an inch thick pour on it, and then I'll do the final pour, and then like the next pour, I'll leave the clamps and everything on, and then the last pour, the clamps come off. I do my final pour in there, and then I take it out of the form and then do all my sanding and polishing and everything.
And I'd like to come back when you're doing some of that. So we're going to have another video to do with you finishing this off and showing what it looks like. And again, this is all going towards a fundraiser for the fire department. So maybe we'll have some more information on that too. And the other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at that project you did for a local neighbor in his, what he calls his man cave. It's a fairly elaborate man cave, but we're going to ask George if we can come over and take a look and talk about that, and you can discuss some things on that. Because I know this all started from when we were talking about the bins and I was looking for a countertop. So just coming over and seeing some of the stuff that you've done and talking about some of the ideas, I'd like to pursue that too. So there may be a video on that one with Jordan's wedding bin, with the bar bin. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. If you liked the video, thumbs up, subscribe, leave some comments. I'm going to put all Jamie's information at the bottom of the link, so if you need to get a hold of this guy, jack of all trades, and he's mastering a lot of them. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks, Jamie.